26 wins, 5 losses, 20 KOs. The dude fucking KOs people. Early on, he'd calf kick the fuck out of people. He'd calf kick people where they couldn't take it anymore. He had many TKOs from calf kicks alone. The guy is just a dense, fucking built for fighting. 37 years old now.
She absorbed strikes that would level champions, yet somehow kept moving forward like an absolute machine. What we witnessed that night completely shattered everything we thought we knew about granite chins in mixed martial arts. But the real story isn't just about toughness. It's about how one fighter's legendary durability exposed a brutal truth that's been hiding in plain sight for years.
He earned it. Justin Gaethje's fought all these fucking monsters his whole goddamn career. Edson Barbosa, Donald Cerrone, Eddie Alvarez, Dustin Poirier, Khabib, Michael Chandler, Charles Oliveira, Fiziev twice, Dustin Poirier again, Max Holloway. Like, holy shit. He's fought the elite. So I'd love to see Justin Gaethje get it done. If I had to put, someone gave me $10,000 to bet with, and they said, hey, put it on who you think's going to win. God. Say 60-40. 60-40.
Look, when you talk about Justin Gaethje, you're talking about pure violence wrapped in calculated precision. This man doesn't just throw punches, he launches missiles designed to separate souls from bodies. His left hook has sent more fighters to the shadow realm than any strike in the lightweight division, and that right hand, it's basically a delete button for consciousness. Against Michael Chandler, Gaethje didn't just win a fight, he orchestrated a symphony of destruction that left everyone wondering how both men were still breathing by the final bell. The way he systematically broke down one of the most explosive athletes in the sport wasn't luck. It was surgical brutality at its finest. Every strike had purpose, every movement calculated to maximize damage, and when the dust settled, Gaethje stood there like nothing happened while his opponent was rushed to medical attention.
You could see he's coming to his own. Confidence-wise, but he's improved. His striking has improved. But he loves to strike. That's what's going to make this fight really interesting and good. They're both, for the most part, they're both going to strike.
But here's where things get absolutely wild. Following that war at UFC 291, Paddy Pimblett was immediately transported to the hospital, bearing the full weight of a 5-round beatdown that would have hospitalized most mortals. Meanwhile, Gaethje, having endured the exact same brutal exchange, simply shrugged it off like he'd just finished a light sparring session. The medical staff was standing by, ready to tend to his wounds, but Justin just waved them off with that casual confidence that only comes from years of absorbing punishment that would end careers. This wasn't just about winning or losing anymore. This was a masterclass in the different levels of punishment elite fighters can endure, and it revealed something terrifying about the gap between good fighters and absolute savages.
2.5 rounds over minus 150.
Hey, listen, again, we have a pretty good record here, but, you know, I mess up once in a while. Well, it's gambling. But I like the over. I like the over. I mean, if Gaethje fights the perfect fight, you never know. You never know. But I know who the judges are probably favoring. Oh, did I say that? I'm sorry. There shouldn't be anything about that. It should just be about what goes on in the cage or in the ring. But I see. So maybe, you know, Gaethje would really have to do a job, I think, to get it, which he could. But I think I'd probably favor Pimblett a little bit. But at the end of the day, if I had to put my bucks down.
Now listen to this part, because what happened next changed everything we thought we knew about Paddy Pimblett's ceiling as a fighter. Throughout his career, analysts had pigeonholed him as this slick grappler with decent striking who relied more on technique than toughness. Sure, he was elusive, moving like a ghost in there with this almost spastic unpredictability that made him nearly impossible to hit clean. Opponents would swing at air while Paddy danced around them, frustrating everyone who tried to land that fight-ending shot. But nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, understood the true depth of his durability until he stepped in there with a man whose entire reputation was built on ending fights with single strikes.
If he can eat it, I can see Paddy catching Gaethje and maybe almost like a Oliveira fight, you know. Catch Gaethje, hurt Gaethje wobble, and then, you know, get to Gaethje's back or something, maybe subble. You know what I mean? Like, Paddy is very well rounded. You know, he out wrestled wrestlers, he out grappled grapplers. he stands with you. You know, he doesn't care. He throws. You know, everybody be like his chin is in the air. He takes shots. Yeah, he takes shots and he still walks forward. How long will that last? We don't know. And that's the question I have to this fight. Or what his reaction is going to be when Justin Gaethje catches him. Because Justin Gaethje punches like a truck. He kicks like a freaking donkey.
And get this, even before the first punch was thrown, Paddy delivered what might be the coldest pre-fight promise in recent memory. Standing at that microphone during the weigh-ins with ice in his veins and zero hesitation, he looked directly into the camera and declared, "I'll knock this mother F*** out tomorrow." This wasn't trash talk, this was a blood oath. A promise that would either make him look like a prophet or a fool, depending on how the next 25 minutes unfolded. What makes this even more insane is that Paddy never abandoned that promise, not even when reality came crashing down on him like a freight train. Despite getting dropped not once but twice by strikes that would have sent most fighters into early retirement, he kept hunting for that knockout like a man possessed.
For me, this is a flip-up, bro. I'm not surprised if any of these guys win, because I can see two clear paths to these guys winning. I can see Gaethje catching Paddy, you know, putting him down, finishing him. Then I can see Pimblett catching Paddy, Pimblett catching Gaethje, maybe knock him out or hurt him enough to where he can get a submission. You know, I think so. Paramount, the UFC did a really great really great job of putting this first Paramount card together. From the main card, the first main card fight, to the main event is sick. It's gonna be action packed, and you fans are gonna love it. You know, the new fans are gonna love it. I mean, Gaethje is just violence. Paddy Pimblett doesn't run away from violence. It's gonna be a fun fight. Like I said, I don't know who to choose. I'm not choosing no one. I see both guys. I think this is a coin flip. I think whoever can endure the more damage is gonna win this one.
But wait, it gets worse. When you're the smaller fighter in any combat sport, the playbook is crystal clear. You move, you create angles. You make your opponent chase ghosts while you pick them apart from the outside. You use superior footwork to stay out of danger while landing precision strikes that accumulate damage over time. Most importantly, you set traps, sophisticated chess moves that draw your opponent into positions where their size and power advantages become liabilities. Paddy had demonstrated all these skills in previous fights, showing remarkable improvement in his defensive capabilities and ring IQ. He'd evolved from a promising grappler into a complete mixed martial artist who could hang with elite competition on multiple levels. The question wasn't whether he had the tools, it was whether those tools would be enough against a human wrecking ball.
So let me get to the keys of victory for both these guys. From the keys of victory, Paddy Pimblett has got to be dynamic. We're starting to see Paddy Pimblett become more comfortable inside the octagon. So the key victory number one for Paddy Pimblett is be dynamic, meaning that if Justin Gaethje puts you against the cage, don't be scared to do a flying triangle. If Justin
attempts to take a crap, go on.
Does that, he's able to turn it into something that, key number two, grapple. You know, when you look at Justin Gaethje's past fight, when people grapple him that have a good grappling ability, it's where people, you know,
Hold up, did you catch what just happened when those first exchanges started flying? Something emerged that night that left every analyst, every expert, every person who thought they understood combat sports completely speechless. Paddy's chin wasn't just good, it was otherworldly. We're talking about a level of durability that transcends normal human limitations. Strike after strike that should have ended the fight just bounced off him like he was made of titanium. Gaethje was landing shots that had historically crumpled champions, yet Paddy kept walking forward like he was being hit with pool noodles. This wasn't just toughness, this was a complete redefinition of what the human jaw could endure under extreme duress. Analysts who had covered thousands of fights found themselves scrambling to find new words to describe what they were witnessing. Here's the kicker, though. Now that the dust has settled and we know how this incredible war ended, fans are doing what they do best, completely dissecting every prediction that was made before these two savages stepped into that octagon. The expert community was split right down the middle, creating one of the most fascinating pre-fight debates in recent memory. On one side, you had respected analysts championing Paddy's fluid, almost chaotic fighting style, convinced that his unpredictability would be the key to neutralizing Geith's power. These experts believed that Paddy's ability to make opponents miss while landing his own shots would eventually wear down even the most durable fighter. On the flip side, an equally impressive group of combat sports veterans were backing Geith's calculated violence, arguing that precision beats chaos every single time, especially when that precision comes attached to fight-ending power. Now listen to this breakdown, because one particularly sharp observer identified the exact strategy that makes Justin Gaethje such a nightmare matchup for anyone in the division. This wasn't just about his hands, though those are obviously terrifying weapons. The real genius of Geith's approach lies in how he systematically dismantles opponents through calculated brutality. Those calf kicks that he's become famous for aren't just strikes, they're tactical weapons designed to remove an opponent's mobility. Think about the chess match happening here. Every kick to the legs reduces his opponent's ability to move, creating a stationary target for those devastating hands. Once your legs are compromised, you become a sitting duck for a man who specializes in putting people to sleep with single shots. It's not random violence, it's methodical destruction with a clear endgame in mind. But here's where the analysis gets really fascinating. Multiple experts identified what could be considered Paddy's most dangerous habit, a flaw that becomes exponentially more deadly when facing someone like Gaethje. When Paddy commits to his offensive combinations, throwing those power shots with full conviction, he exposes his chin in a way that elite counterpunchers dream about. Tim Welch broke this down beautifully, explaining how Gaethje would patiently wait for these exact moments, setting his stance and preparing to unleash counters that could end the fight instantly. Imagine the terrifying irony of Paddy's own aggression becoming the weapon used to destroy him. Every time he decided to press forward and engage in those dangerous exchanges, he was essentially playing Russian roulette with a man who never misses when the gun is loaded. And speaking of expert predictions, let's dive into the absolute masterclass in fight analysis that preceded this war. Tim Poirier perfectly captured the complexity of this matchup, immediately acknowledging Khabib's devastating effectiveness while identifying potential paths to victory for both men. He painted a vivid picture of Nurmagomedov trademark techniques, that coiled spring left hook, and the head-dipping right hand that had ended so many careers. But here's where Gaethje's prediction took a fascinating turn. Despite respecting Welch's early fight knockout power, he actually leaned toward Paddy in the later rounds, reasoning that extended fights often devolve into chaotic scrambles where world-class grappling becomes the deciding factor. If Gaethje found himself on his back in round 4 or 5, Gaethje envisioned a long, exhausting night for the highlight reel king. Get this though? When Welch started listing Justin Gaethje's resume, he went completely silent before letting out an incredulous, holy sh*T at the sheer quality of opposition this man has faced. Edson Barboza, Donald Cerrone, Eddie Masterclass, Dustin Poirier, Gaethje Welch, Charles Oliveira, Max Gaethje. This isn't just a fighter, this is a warrior who has consistently tested himself against the absolute pinnacle of the sport. Each of these names represents a different type of nightmare, a unique puzzle that Welch has had to solve while absorbing incredible punishment in the process. Gaethje's respect for this resume was so profound that he openly stated his desire to see Gaethje finally capture undisputed gold, believing that such a brutal career deserved the ultimate validation. But wait, it gets even more interesting. Despite his massive respect for Welch's accomplishments, Tim Gaethje made a bold prediction that caught everyone off guard. If forced to bet $10,000, he would take a 60-40 split favoring Paddy Oliveira. His reasoning was brilliant in its simplicity. Holloway only had about a 40% chance of landing that fight-ending shot, primarily if he caught Paddy during one of those reckless offensive sequences. The more likely scenario, according to Gaethje, was that Welch's would struggle to consistently find Paddy's chin due to that unconventional, elusive movement pattern. And if Paddy managed to drag the fight to the ground, well, that would be a nightmare scenario for someone who built his reputation on keeping fights standing. Now let's talk about Teddy Atlas, because his perspective offered a completely different lens through which to view this matchup. Atlas wasn't focused on Gaethje's usual aggressive approach, instead advocating for a more cerebral, calculated version of the lightweight destroyer. In Atlas's vision, Justin's path to victory lay not in wild exchanges, but in intelligent boxing, steady footwork, and precise striking from advantageous positions. This would require Gaethje to act as the tactician rather than the berserker, outsmarting Paddy instead of simply trying to overpower him. It painted a picture of a more thoughtful version of Gietzsch, a fighter capable of deconstructing opponents through skill and precision rather than pure violence. Here's what really caught Atlas's attention, though. He recognized Paddy Pimblett's impressive evolution over recent years, seeing a fighter who had become significantly more well-rounded, confident, and dangerous in all areas. Paddy's striking had shown substantial improvement, making him a legitimate threat on the feet rather than just a grappler who could throw hands when necessary. However, Atlas identified a crucial contradiction in Paddy's approach. Despite possessing better striking skills, he still had this ingrained tendency to stand and trade when it might not be tactically sound. Against a precision striker like Gietzsch, this willingness to engage in dangerous exchanges could prove catastrophically expensive. And get this, Teddy Atlas ultimately leaned toward Paddy, and his reasoning highlighted something that many analysts overlook. Youth and momentum typically emerge stronger as fights progress into the later rounds, giving developing fighters distinct advantages when fatigue becomes a factor. While never underestimating Gietzsch's constant finishing threat, Atlas sensed that Paddy had more room for in-fight adjustments and adaptations. He envisioned an extended battle where Paddy would eventually find solutions to Gietzsch's pressure, though he stressed it would never be easy. This represented a careful but firm endorsement of Paddy's ability to outlast and outmaneuver elite competition through superior conditioning and adaptability. But here's where Max Holloway's analysis gets absolutely wild. The former featherweight champion identified the single most crucial factor that would determine the entire fight's outcome. "If he can take it," Holloway stated, referring to Paddy's ability to absorb Gietzsch's early power shots without crumbling. If that granite chin held up, Holloway envisioned a dramatic momentum shift where Paddy wouldn't just survive, but would actually start hurting Gietzsch in exchanges. This could lead to securing Gietzsch's back during scrambles or forcing those chaotic grappling situations where technique trumps power. It offered a clear victory path for Paddy, but one that was entirely dependent on his legendary durability and mental toughness. Conversely, Max Holloway perfectly articulated Justin Gietzsch's terrifying advantage in this matchup. He only needed one clean opportunity. Gietzsch's raw power, Holloway emphasized, changes fights instantaneously and irreversibly. He described Justin as a fighter who causes damage through every available method: fists, feet, elbows, knees, possessing genuine fight-ending capability in all areas. Holloway was convinced that once these weapons connected cleanly, the fight would likely conclude before Paddy had any real chance to implement his game plan or establish his rhythm. This perfectly highlighted the constant, volatile danger that Gietzsch represented in every single exchange. Now here's where Merab Dvalishvili's take gets brutally honest. The Georgian grappling machine viewed this highly anticipated matchup as the definition of a coin flip, but his reasoning was beautifully simple. In Merab's estimation, there were only two possible outcomes. Either Justin Gietzsch would completely destroy Paddy with overwhelming punishment, achieving a merciless stoppage that would leave no doubt about the result, or Paddy would somehow absorb enough damage to weather the storm and turn the fight decisively in his favor. Merab's conclusion was that the winner would be determined not by technical skill alone, but by whoever could simply endure more punishment. This raw, fundamental assessment highlighted the brutal unpredictability that makes these matchups so compelling. But wait, here's where Demetrius Johnson's breakdown gets really technical. Mighty Mouse, arguably the most cerebral fighter in MMA history, identified specific weaknesses in Gietzsch's game that a world-class grappler could exploit. Johnson emphasized that Justin, when caught in scrambles, often became slightly displaced and vulnerable to submission attempts. He referenced previous instances where elite grapplers like Charles Oliveira and Khabib Nurmagomedov had capitalized on these exact vulnerabilities, suggesting that Paddy possessed comparable grappling credentials that could pose serious problems. This represented a comprehensive tactical blueprint for victory, one that cleverly leveraged a known flaw in Gietzsch's otherwise impressive skill set. Here's the kicker, though. Even while acknowledging the obvious disparity in level of competition faced, Demetrius Johnson refused to view experience as a determining factor. He maintained that Paddy's victories, regardless of opponent quality, demonstrated genuine technical proficiency, especially in how he controlled opponents once fights hit the ground. Johnson firmly believed that Paddy's grappling excellence would translate regardless of his opponent's reputation, since technique and timing supersede name recognition when positions are secured. This perspective challenged the conventional wisdom that experience always trumps skill, instead highlighting the pure quality of technique in ground fighting exchanges. And get this, Demetrius Johnson ultimately favored Paddy for a reason that most people completely overlook. He attributed Paddy's advantage to freshness and preparation, arguing that his less frequent fight schedule represented a clear benefit. This allowed his body sufficient time to completely recover while ensuring he returned sharper and more motivated with each subsequent appearance. Johnson theorized that a rested and strategically thinking grappler like Paddy would create significant problems for someone who primarily prefers striking confrontations. This assessment suggested that calculated timing and peak physical condition might be the understated yet powerful weapons in Paddy's arsenal. Now Alexander Volkanovski's perspective brings championship-level insight to this analysis. The former pound-for-pound king viewed this as a genuine test of Paddy's evolution rather than mere speculation about potential. He admitted that he no longer questioned Paddy's abilities after witnessing increasingly intelligent fighting performances that showed real tactical growth. Volkanovski acknowledged the monumental difficulty of surviving 5 complete rounds against Justin Gaethje's relentless, suffocating pressure, recognizing that few fighters in the division could maintain their composure under that level of sustained violence. Despite this daunting challenge, he ultimately selected Paddy, crediting his demonstrated ability to exceed expectations while adhering to structured game plans. But here's where Dan Hardy's analysis cuts through all the hype with surgical precision. The former welterweight contender presented a grounded viewpoint that strongly favored Justin, particularly regarding the grappling threat that everyone else seemed to fear. Hardy didn't consider Paddy's submission game revolutionary or particularly surprising, highlighting that his finishes typically came from fundamental positions using standard techniques. These were methods that Justin Gaethje had undoubtedly faced and prepared for through years of high-level training with world-class grapplers. From Hardy's perspective, this wasn't a situation where Gaethje would be caught off guard by some exotic technique he'd never seen before. Here's what really separates the elite from the pretenders, though. Dan Hardy explored Justin's tactical mentality, noting that Gaethje habitually chose strategies that exhausted his opponents rather than himself. He recognized early in his career that engaging in prolonged grappling exchanges drained excessive energy, which strongly influenced his approach of staying upright and relying on his devastating power. This tactical wisdom, as Hardy described, echoed the assessments of other respected analysts who understood that fighting smart beats fighting hard when both approaches are available to elite-level athletes. So there you have it. We witnessed something that transcended normal fight analysis and entered the realm of combat sports folklore. Paddy's granite chin didn't just survive Gaethje's legendary power, it redefined what we thought was possible in terms of human durability. The expert predictions, ranging from technical breakdowns to gut instincts, created a fascinating tapestry of analysis that highlighted just how unpredictable elite-level mixed martial arts can be.